what you said before was quite interesting. Those memories that kind of build in, nostalgia and build in importance. They're only ones that really hit emotional peaks for you. And so when you're at a concert in particular, or you're in a big crowd of people that is really getting involved, there's a lot of energy there in something. You can't do anything but get involved, there's something there that happens, and you just feel the energy in yourself, and you get really excited about what's going on. And so that kind of just that alone sets a baseline. And, because of the hype that was there, there was a massive hype. He had a massive following and like a passionate, true fan following, to the point of being a cult, really. At least what was portrayed in this. And just coming into that with some fresh eyes, with all the hype, coming into that with all these fans sitting there, you're already almost hitting that without doing anything. Without actually enjoying the music, you're almost already hitting that emotional peak for something to look back on.
Just through the atmosphere.
Just through the atmosphere of it. So I imagine that has a big influence on it.
So you hit on an interesting point. Perhaps it's worth talking about the greater ecosystem that he created on this tour. So it wasn't just him rolling around with a kind of backup singers or a band or what have you. It was a group of talented, very, very talented musicians kind of cobbling together, right?
Yeah. It doesn't just there isn't just the character of Dylan himself. It's beyond that. There was this whole ecosystem which the character was, interacting with and living and breathing it. He was living and breathing what it was, all that his craft was about. They were always talking to one another in these, almost like this code is the way I felt it. I think Patti Smith was speaking at one point in time, and I think she's actually somewhere now, but she just says, he's like, Superman takes a piece of coal in his hand, he starts squeezing it, and he goes on, she rambles on for a little bit longer, and then she says, after years and years of kids kicking around, it becomes smooth, it becomes a diamond. And I was just like, and Bob Dylan's there, he's like, yeah, I know. Yeah. And so
that's just rubbish, isn't it?
Well, but see, the thing is, maybe there's just this, they're just operating on a completely different level, but they're always talking in these metaphors. You think about like us talking in slang.
Yeah.
We talk in our own little slang.
It's not about the words, is it? It's about the feeling, is it?
Mm. And they're always like very narrative based. They're always stories. And so it was almost, it almost created this like click, and you had to get into the click, because the click, you want to get into the click, which kind of builds the hype. You needed to be like poetic, or you needed to be pretty out there. And I was really interested, because I imagine, and you could see it, that there was all these people that, at least in the documentary, that, wanted to get in. They wanted to, do whatever that they could to get involved in the crew. But that was inauthentic, because they weren't being themselves.
Yes.
But maybe Dylan actually had an eye for that, and because he did ask some people to come on the tours and things with them, because this rolling review was really it's almost like a moving commune that was moving around the tour.
Yeah, people jumped on, jumped off. But it seemed to me that they talked about him he really spent a lot of time by himself. He seemed to really, like they kind of said, the only time we really saw Bob was when he was performing or driving the bus. So I think he kept a real tight crew around him. And again, the enigma of that is that when he comes out and speaks to you, you're being spoken to by the Great One or something, you know. But I tend to agree with what you're saying. It's tribal what they were doing, you know. They were getting in these small rooms, playing these instruments, singing, talking in kind of a trance kind of way, and doing a lot of drugs. It sounded like some bad stuff happened on that tour too, you know. But it was just a little bit out of control, but very, very creative.
It definitely got to the place of sounding a little bit like a cult, you know. You know, which you know was probably part of the movement itself, you know, like part of, you know, that was one of the successes of the tour, is creating that, you know, building that cult following. You know, the 1,000 true fans.
Just the creativity. Yeah, it was kind of interesting because there was sort of a competitiveness between some of the musicians, I thought too, which meant that they were, you know, making good music, you know.
Yeah, they actually mentioned that we were all there, we were all performing for the show, but we also all wanted our chance in, you know, the limelight. They all wanted their shot to sing with Dylan, and yes, it creates some. There's definitely some competitiveness, but I wonder if it actually creates some, you know, inauthentic undertones just for people to get in the mix. So I imagine it sounded like people were cut pretty quickly as well, like people disappeared almost.
Yeah,
which I think is probably a good thing. Yeah, I'm assuming that Dylan kind of shuffled people off that he realised. I'm just making wild assumptions here, by the way. That he probably cut people off pretty quickly once he realised that they weren't the real deal, or were just doing it to get to get somewhere, which is good.
Yeah, interesting.
They actually interview one of their chauffeurs throughout the show, and you know, he actually says he doesn't go to rock concerts and never goes to this type of thing, but he actually got invited to go into one of the shows, and he says you could not only feel the vibes, you could almost see them. There was a love affair between the performers and the audience. And so it was like this building between, you know, this throwing backwards and forward between Dylan and the crowd, and, you know, the charisma that's coming off him in this trance-like state on stage, to the crowd that, you know, also becomes part of that, which is just crazy.
Yeah, this is something like, he's such a softly spoken guy, it seems, most of the time, off the stage. And then he gets on there and there's just like this fire inside him, and the intensity is palpable. You can feel it, you know, when he's singing, and the way he focuses on these kind of long-winded stories that he tells through his music. But I just feel like, yeah, it's almost a rage I kind of saw in him, but channeled, you know, in the right way. Like, and it got me thinking about is there anything in your life that you have approached with that much conviction?